talk about Luke Cage and how you first connected with this project in Marvel and end up in the Marvel cinematic universe.
I was kind of like everybody else. I had a job at the time. I was working on a show. This material came along. It found its way in my hands. I read it, and it really resonated with me, and it clicked with me. And I went in, and just, they thought the same thing. They brought me back. I started doing chemistry reads with, Kristen Ritter, who plays Jessica Jones. And the overall plan was to have Luke Cage be introduced in Jessica Jones and then go into his own series and then Defenders. Right. And so it just was one of those things where it's like, life-changing all at once.
Talk about Defenders and Jessica Jones. You're such a part of a bigger universe. Talk about being part of that universe and how blending in, and from each show, does Luke Cage change and what does he give differently?
Well, what they're really good about is making each show very specific, very unique unto itself. It stands alone. So if you watch one show, you don't have to necessarily watch the other. So with my luxury was that I was able to be introduced in Jessica Jones, a completely different world than Luke Cage. Very unique, very film noir, dark, and really kind of strange in the sense that it was tortured and all this other stuff. We go to Harlem. Luke changes a little bit because he's in a different place, but ultimately the character stays true to himself. What I like about Marvel is they're able to tell specific stories and stay true to the characters, and you always feel like it's the same person no matter what series it is. And I encourage people to watch each series, but you don't have to, and that's a great thing.
There's a ton of Marvel projects coming up soon. You have Doctor Strange, you got Spider-Man. Yeah. Of all those projects, which ones could you see yourself in, possibly?
Oh, well, if I have time, I can see myself in any of them, but I have no time. Right now we're telling a very specific story. I'm not opposed to doing any other projects that Marvel throws my way, but they're in charge of that. It's above my pay grade, man.
Well, congratulations, my friend.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hi. So talk about Luke Cage and how you got Cheo involved and Netflix and the whole, I guess, because with Marvel, you guys are so planned and methodic. Talk about bringing all the key players.
We have, such an extraordinary relationship with Netflix. It started about 2 years ago. Marvel Television went over there and brought them a brand new idea, something that had never been done before, which is we wanted to tell 4 different series, which would then culminate in one series event. So when we walked into Netflix, what we said was, when the Avengers are letting the universe get saved, when the aliens are coming through and there's a big hole in the sky and the Hulk's jumping down a building, if you go over about 6 avenues and down a little bit, there's a little area called Hell's Kitchen. And in that area, there's a whole group of heroes that we refer to as the street-level heroes, who aren't here to save the universe, they're here to save the neighborhood. And in many cases, they're here to save themselves. And those kinds of stories on television come across very, very powerfully. And so that's really where we started. And we started out with Daredevil, and then we went to Jessica Jones. We're here tonight to celebrate Luke Cage. Iron Fist comes after that, and then they're all going to get together in something called the Defenders.
New York City is always such a main character in all these shows, all these street shows. So talk about the city being its own character within these shows.
Well, we've always referred to New York as the fifth Defender. The truth of the matter is the city has opened itself up to us. We shoot everywhere. We shoot on the tops of buildings. We shoot down the subways. Well, and it's the cool part about it is if you get an experience like this, it's sort of an opportunity to get to know New York in its own way. What's really unique about Luke Cage was that we knew we wanted to bring it uptown. We knew that we wanted to be in Harlem. This area, which is where we're doing this celebration tonight, just open their arms to us. There's an authenticity to it. It's not a made-up city. It's not somebody from another planet. It's a guy who's here who you probably know. He happens to look like Mike Colter, which is awesome, but that's the idea.
We could all be so lucky. Because Marvel is so methodic in how they think and all the planning, talk about how long it takes to bring a show like this to life. And because Luke is one of the first African American heroes, if not the first, talk about bringing him to the screen, and it's a long process.
In the big picture of things, Luke Cage first appeared in 1972. He was the first black superhero from the street in order to have his own comic book. And he had an enormous impact in terms of the comic book industry, but that's where it lived. It lived in the comic book industry. But in many ways, it had a profound effect on a number of people, not the least of which was Cheo, who's our showrunner. who saw himself in a different kind of way, that there was a black superhero from the street that he could connect with. And so we knew that we wanted to set out to tell that story, that we wanted to have an authenticity to it, we wanted to have a realness to it, and then we wanted to have something that people could connect to. So on the one hand, that was important to us, but it's also important that we tell a story that is universal, that it's a story about a man who had done things in his past, who he was trying to run away from, and you can't. Eventually that is either going to catch up with you or you're going to have to face it in order for you to be able to move forward. And that's one of the big themes of the show, which is forward always. And so that's why we think that this is a show that's not just going to connect to the comic book audience, but will connect to people everywhere who want to see just a really terrific, dramatic show.
Marvel's about storytelling.
Always will be.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy it.
Tell us about your role in the show and the involvement and how this all happened.
Okay, well, I wish I could tell you more about what I'm doing in the show. I actually can't. I come in the show in the middle of the series after a plot twist.
Oh, we love a good plot twist.
Yes, we do love a good plot twist. And so I can't tell you a lot about it, but I can tell you that we work very hard all around New York City. It's great to be in Harlem, back where it's always hot and delicious. But yeah, it's a really fantastic experience working on this show with Cheo and Simone and Mike and everyone who's involved in it.
Cheo's always very known for his collaborations with actors.
Yeah.
Talk about working with him and giving him your input and telling him what this character needs to do.
Well, part of the job of an actor is to give feedback and be collaborative, but it's also to listen to what the writers want to do. And Cheo is so experienced and is such an expert at his job. You really don't want to tell him a lot. You want to listen to what he wants to see. You want to listen to what he wants to have. And that's really great, to lend yourself over to a story, an historic comic book figure like Luke Cage for the first time in American television. It actually is a wonderful opportunity to explore something in the collaborative effort. So I wasn't telling Cheo nothing.
Now being in a Marvel show, you're a part of such a bigger universe.
Yeah.
Talk about that feeling, like, oh my gosh, like everyone has a Marvel contract.
Well, it's when you're working on a show like this, it doesn't feel like a big, incredible thing. It's working with great actors like Alfred Woodard and great writers like Cheo and great directors like George Tillman Jr. I mean, you don't feel that. You just feel the day-to-day working environment of doing a show like this. And that's where the real reward comes, at least for me as an actor. So I'm hoping the Marvel fans love it.
I think we will. I think we're all going to love it.
Okay.
Congratulations tonight. Tell me how the whole process came together in terms of you and Marvel and Netflix all hooking up at the one.
Well, I met with that man over there, Jeph Loeb. Okay. Jeph Loeb, who is a demigod in comic books. He liked what I had to say about Luke and my perspective on Luke, and between him and Joe Quesada and Dan Buckley and Kareem Zreik, the Marvel Brain Trust came together and just gave me the opportunity to tell this story, and it's been a dream come true ever since.
You are hip-hop royalty as far as I'm concerned, especially hip-hop journalism royalty.
Thank you.
Talk about hip-hop as a character in this show.
Well, it's basically twofold. It's like, for one, the reason we have Biggie in the club is that I got to know Biggie, interviewing him, way back in the day, and he would have loved Cottonmouth. I mean, because, as a storyteller and just Cottonmouth swagger, that was kind of a shout to Big. But also, really on a deeper sense, I mean, if it was my relationship with Big from interviewing him that led to me writing a book, the book led to me co-writing the movie led to me getting into television. So as far as I'm concerned, I owe all this to Notorious B.I.G. and owe all this to hip-hop. So I'm basically using this show as the opportunity to kind of pay hip-hop back for what it's given me.
And another character in the film, I want to call it a film so bad because it's so good, is Harlem. Talk about Harlem and the drop back of Harlem and the role Harlem plays in the show.
Harlem is Las Vegas, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta in one place. It's basically an entertainment capital. There's politics here, but at the same time, it's also got very powerful churches that have national ramifications. So when you mix all that together, and plus you add Luke Cage, and you add superpowers, and you add all these themes, you can't help but come up with an interesting story. Yeah.
And then you're known for your collaborative efforts and always bringing people in. Talk about collaborating with the cast and what the input they gave you and what the insight they gave you from reading the script and whatnot.
Here's the thing: when you have the right cast, everything you do as a writing and as a writer and as a writing staff just goes to another level. And that was really the amazing thing about when you see what Mike Colter and Simone Missick and Theo Rossi and Rosario Dawson and Mahershala Ali and Alfred Woodard do. It elevates everything that we've tried to do, and so it's just powerful because they brought so much emotion and so much dedication to the story that we pushed each other. And then with all of our directors, I mean, what Paul McGagan did with the first 2 episodes, which you're going to see really soon, it was just absolutely amazing.
Well, congratulations tonight, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.